Ben, as we've mentioned, is joining us live from Montreal. Ben, great coverage so far. You said earlier that the island of Montreal votes mostly Liberal, but it's the battlegrounds outside of the city that you're taking a closer look at next.
That's right. We're going to be talking with Ian McDonald here, who is the editor and publisher of Policy Magazine. Let's just talk numbers really quick so that people understand at home. 170 seats to win a majority, 78 here in the province of Quebec. So really crucial to so many of the parties. But let's talk about why it seems to me, at least, that the voters here in Quebec have been relatively fickle over the past few elections. And I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, but they've really hopped from party to party. Why is that?
You know, Ben, there's an old saying, Quebec c'est faire, and Quebec really does know how to make it interesting. And this election is really interesting. As you said, there are 78 seats in Quebec. The Liberals held 40 coming into the election. The NDP had like 14, the Conservatives 11. The Bloc were down to 10. At one point, when Martine Ouellette was their leader, they were down to 3 seats. Yeah. And then they got Mr. Blanchet to come and be their leader. He got them back to 10. And they're maybe on the road to winning somewhere in the 30s, according to the polls we're looking at this morning. It's really interesting.
But why is it? What is it about the voters here that they don't have a sense of either tradition or loyalty to one particular political brand?
They will sometimes have a loyalty to a favorite son, to the first Mr. Trudeau, to Mr. Mulroney, your father, but they don't have that particular loyalty to this Trudeau, I'm noticing. And where Mr. Blanchet is doing well is that he's positioning himself not as the proponent of Bill 21, the dress code bill, but rather he's put himself close to François Legault, the premier, in a time of unprecedented prosperity in Quebec, where there's unemployment below Ontario, where Quebec is paying down debt. Never heard of that before. So things, ça va bien.
Ça va bien.
And people can afford, it doesn't cost anything to vote for the Bloc. So why not?
All right, Ian, let's talk political strategy in these dog days, these dying days of the election campaign. What tactics have the leaders been employing to bring out their vote, maximize their impact in this province?
Well, certainly Blanchet has put himself as Mr. Legault's representative or stand-in.
His proxy on the federal stage.
His proxy on the federal stage. And as I said, it doesn't cost anything to vote for them. And if you look at the map of those 78 Quebec seats, you have to give most of Montreal, which is Area 514, to the Liberals, as you've said in your intros, a bit like 416 in Toronto. Yeah. And then there's 450, which is the suburbs around the city, like 905, which is the start of the swing vote. And then you get out into the rest of the province, and that's where the Bloc vote becomes extremely efficient in Area 819. All the way to Baie-Comeau. To where your children's grandfather was born and grew up, you know? So it's a really interesting time. And Quebec is one of 3 provinces holding the keys to this election. The others being Ontario and 905 and British Columbia, which is like crazy.
So Justin Trudeau has been really focusing a lot of attention here in Quebec in the last few days.
Do you know he's been here in the last 2 days? He had the day before yesterday, he had 6 events on the South Shore in 450 and 819 in Drummondville and Sherbrooke. And yesterday, 4 events on the North Shore leading into Montreal, finishing the day in Rosemount.
So it's a full court press. What does that signal to you?
That the Liberals are trying to count their way back to their 40, never mind the 55 seats in Quebec they thought they were going to win, and forget about a majority government.
Forget about a majority government. Yeah. Meanwhile, Jagmeet Singh, the tale nationally for him has been people like him more and more, people like his message more and more. What about here in the province of Quebec?
He does have a bit of the hat problem, if I could put it that way.
It's the visual.
Yeah, right? With some Quebec voters. Although they had a very good TV spot at the beginning that showed him shaving in the morning and stuff like that without his turban. People like him here too. Whether they're going to vote for the NDP is something else, because Quebecers like to vote in decisive numbers. They'd like their vote to make a difference.
And finally, what about Andrew Scheer?
What about Andrew Scheer?
Is that what Quebecers are saying? What about Andrew Scheer?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the unknown commodity. He could be Prime Minister designate after Monday, or maybe not. We just don't know any more about Andrew Scheer than they do in the rest of the country in terms of what his prospects are if there's a Conservative minority government or more on Monday.
Ian, thank you so much for being here with us. This is a really unique dynamic in Quebec. No one better to break it down for us than you.
Great to be with you, Ben.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.